Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tyler's Tiger Talk. So the Tigers win it 41-14, going on the road, picking up the road victory. Not only is it an important victory for the season, but it's an important moral victory. It shows you what's to go on the rest of the season. And one thing I talked about on my video last week was LSU's ability to take over the West. And how it's open more than it ever has been. And I think after this weekend, after Alabama's game against South Florida, and Georgia's game, even though Georgia's not in the West, how Florida played versus Tennessee, how Mississippi State played, just all these SEC teams playing. And I think LSU prove that they're one of the best teams in the SEC. You still haven't seen much from Georgia, but they barely beat South Carolina, and that game was too close for a while. I mean, South Carolina led that game for a lot of that game. So it just goes to show you the state the SEC's in right now, and it really shows my point that I made in my last video of, the SEC West is open. The SEC itself is almost open, and it needs someone to kind of go and take over because, I know Georgia's ranked number one in the AP polls, and they're ranked number one in the SEC, but they don't seem like that team right now that is dominant. They're the dominant team in the SEC in national rankings. They just seem like they're just there because they've won 2 national championships in a row, but they don't seem like that team. That's all that like they usually are, and how they've been for the past 2 years. Same with Alabama. Last year, Alabama was a pretty good team. They were pretty good 2-loss team. They had Bryce Young, a Heisman winner, but this year Alabama just doesn't seem like that, and you could say Nick Saban was trying to prove something on Saturday by starting 2 other quarterbacks besides Milroe. And I could see that. I could see, because a lot of Alabama fans and LSU fans have seen this, but a lot of Alabama fans were complaining about Milroe after his performance, and it just goes to show you, hey, Milroe isn't the best, but he's your best option at Alabama right now. And he's athletic. He's a big guy. Just let him do his thing. Like, if I'm Alabama's coaches, I'm just going to let Milroe do his thing. If his thing is running for substantial gains, let him do that. You saw Anthony Richardson at Florida. And even in this past game the Colts played, I mean, he's good at running the ball. He's pretty much a running back, but he's good at running the ball. So let Milroe do that. I mean, he doesn't have that much competition in the SEC besides LSU this year, when he's going to play a really good team that can stop him running. I don't think there's that many teams that can stop Milroe running. I know they play Ole Miss pretty sure this weekend, but that's pretty much, besides LSU, that's the best team he's going to face. So just let Milroe do his thing. Let him run some. I think Alabama's still a threat. Not as much as I thought they were at the beginning of the year. I figured LSU would go 11-1. Their loss beat to Alabama. Now it's gonna. Obviously, that's not it. I still think LSU could be an 11-1, but that loss is just to Florida State, obviously. But yeah, so LSU went in, proved themselves. Like I said, I talked about this game being important for LSU. I talked about what fashion LSU had to win this game for me to be like, okay, LSU's back. That offense looked impeccable. Malik Neighbors and Jaden connecting throughout the whole game was fun to watch. I thought LSU would be kind of taking their 5 yards at a time, and every now and then being a big play. I was wrong. We had a lot of big plays throughout that game. But I love how LSU ran the offense. I thought it was just so fluid, and it looked so good. And throughout that game, you never thought, okay, there's going to be a mistake. Mississippi State might come back. Yada, yada. It was like LSU was just so efficient with everything they did. And Jaden Daniels was so efficient with his throws, and there was not that many mess ups that you saw. And it was just how this team was kind of talked about preseason. It was how LSU was talked about, and now they went and showed you, hey, this isn't all talk. We lost to Florida State, and we didn't run an efficient offense nor defense. But this is what we can do now. We've had a few games under our belt. This is what we can do. LSU looks really good. Jaden Daniels looks really good. I've been saying, I said it last year, I said it this year, give the dude a chance. I said it in my video last week, give the dude a chance. Let him do his thing, and he did his thing. And I know he's kind of put under as a running quarterback, but he slung that ball around, and it was just fun to watch. It really was, and the running game looked good. Caleb Jackson, I love that dude. I mean, that truck he had against that Mississippi State defender was just fun to watch. He's getting better and better. I think he's going to be your number 2 guy. And so you got the running game kind of being established a little bit more. I talked about the running game, especially Jaden Daniels is usually your lead rusher. So you need you need a running back to take that over again. I like Jaden Daniels running. I like him. I like his legs. Like I talked about in my video last week. He's going to make some big play with his legs. But I'd rather that role reverse more to the running back again. I'd rather the running back, when you look at rushing stats, I want the running backs to have the leading rushing stats. Logan Diggs still looks good. He's your power guy. He's your RB1. I think Logan Diggs is going to make. I mean, he's going to make some breakout plays this year. Caleb Jackson under him, Josh Williams, and you just have so much depth in the running back room. Like you have Logan Diggs, Caleb Jackson, Josh Williams, Noah Cain, John Emery. I mean, you have so many of those guys. So when you need to run the ball, there's no confusion. Like you can run the ball with whoever and pick up that good gain. And the offensive line looked a lot better when run blocking this weekend. Everything this weekend improved. You saw improvement from everything. If you look at the stats from this game last year versus this game this year, there's just improvement everywhere. I mean, there was still some pressure that Jaden Daniels got, but it still looked a lot better. Your O lineman improved, D line improved. You had that one breakout run by Marks, but besides that, Mississippi State didn't really do anything. And in that run, if you look back at that run, there was a holding call that they didn't call, and that was Mississippi State's only points of the first half, and it really shouldn't have been there, in my opinion. It really should have been called back. But LSU just looked really good in the secondary. Mississippi State didn't pass much, but when they did, nothing really happened. There was I remember watching that throw. I can't remember if it was a wide receiver or tight end, but Harold Perkins was playing it, had some good pass coverage. It was a good throw by Will Rogers, try to get to his guy, and it was just good pass coverage by I'm losing my train of thought. It was good pass coverage by wow. That's bad. I just said his name and now I can't remember it. Harold Perkins. It was good pass coverage by Harold Perkins. I'm losing my mind. So Harold Perkins looked a lot better this game. He had that pass coverage. Then he had a few pressures and a sack, if I believe. But he looked a lot better rushing the passer, and he just looked like a lot better in the position they put him in. Greg Penn looked good. the freshman, is it Meeks? I want to say. I don't know if it pulled up right now, but this the defense looked a lot better, and it's what you want to see out of LSU. Obviously, they're still going to have problems when they go up against offenses that want to throw the ball a lot. When they face Arkansas this week, there's still probably going to be some problems in the secondary, but they're getting better is the point. And you don't need a perfect secondary to win games, playoffs, SEC championships, national championships. You don't need the best the best defenses and the best secondary. Especially in LSU's case, because I do believe the offense is starting to get it going. And if your offense can be dominant and your defense can get a few stops here and there, you're going to win almost all your games. Problem with LSU against Florida State is when our the defense was getting a few stops here and there, our offense wasn't doing anything, right? And if both of them aren't going to work, then you're going to lose games. Obviously, you saw, because the offense couldn't get anything going, and when the defense did get things going, the offense still wasn't getting it. So it was just bad recipe. But I do believe the defense is getting better, and you were lost. You didn't have the guys like Greg Brooks or Omar Spates, and you didn't have those guys, and you still looked very good in the secondary and stopping the run, etc. Other points I wanted to talk about. Jaden Daniels, like I said, looked a lot better for this game last year. Just, he looked a lot better. Had I want to say he had a 95 QB rating. Let me look at his stats. 30 for 34, which is insane. That's 88.2%. 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, passing. He had 64 rushing yards with 15 carries and 2 rushing touchdowns. So 4 touchdowns in all. That's when you talk Heisman talk, when you talk about Heisman, that's the kind of stats you're looking for. Like, this guy can do it on the ground, he can do it rushing, and he can do it passing. That's the kind of Heisman. Look, when you're looking for Heisman, that's the kind of stuff you want to see. And if Jaden Daniels can continue to do stuff like that, obviously he's not going to go and get 95 QBR every game. This was just so many mistakes from Mississippi State, and LSU looking so good. That kind of formulated that. But if he can play like he played, I think this is going to be a potential Heisman season for him. And he's as good as he did. Jaden Daniels is still not talked about as much, and he's going to need to prove himself throughout these few weeks of SEC opponents. He's going to need to go out there and throw for 300 yards and do it with his legs. I want to say that's the most Jaden Daniel. Is that the most he's thrown for at LSU so far? I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember. But he just looked like a different QB. And when you talk improvement, and I've seen this a lot, is Jaden Daniels hasn't improved barely any. Jaden Daniels, from last year, just he still looks like the same Jaden Daniels. And then you watch that Mississippi State game on Saturday, and you're like, no, he has improved. He's looking for his receivers if the first read isn't there. He's not running right away if the play breaks down. He's finding his guys. And he just looked like an efficient QB, and he pushed the ball down vertically. And it wasn't just 5-yard passes to the running back out of the backfield or to his tight end or to like a slant route. He made perfect passes when he was throwing it to Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas. I mean, he was accurate. He was efficient. He got the ball out fast. He did everything that those quarterbacks that are so successful, like Joe Burrow and Bryce Young, he looked like an actual college football ready to go to the NFL quarterback. He looked like a QB with 5-6 years of experience. It's almost like he's completed now, and I'm not saying he can't have setbacks, because you've seen it last year before. Jane Daniels would do really good, and in one game he threw for 75 yards or something like that. So I'm not knock on wood, there is no setbacks, but I think Jane Daniels is ready to lead LSU to bigger victories as far as SEC championships or college football playoffs. Like, he looks like he's ready for those big games now, because you see it like against Florida State and last year against Georgia, and you just didn't seem like he could win those big games. And against Tennessee, like, those big games and those opponents that came in, you just didn't feel like that LSU could get it done. And now you feel like LSU could get it done against big opponents now. It was an ass kicking against Florida State and Orlando, but now LSU's ready. I just don't see, besides, and it's hard to even say now, besides Alabama, I just don't see LSU like the possibility of a for sure loss to any other opponent that they have on their schedule. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm saying this too prematurely. You're like, Tyler, I know they won big against Mississippi State, but that doesn't mean anything. It means everything. I mean, this team looked good through and through every snap. It wasn't like they had to come back against Mississippi State in the second half and win this game. You knew they were winning this game from the first few drives. I mean, LSU just looked completed. They looked more mature. They looked more efficient. They looked better coached. Brian Kelly looked more like, Nick Saban did a few years ago when he was running through SEC opponents and every other opponent. Like, he just looked like, LSU couldn't be stopped. And I want to see that again against Arkansas at home. That game was on the road at Mississippi State. Now you're at home against Arkansas. A tougher opponent, obviously, but I'm excited. It's going to be a home game, home environment. I mean, let's see what LSU can do. Like, can they prove that, they didn't just demolish a bad Mississippi State team. They've improved on every level. And I think they can. I think this is, Mississippi State was like, LSU can get back on track, and Arkansas is like a reassurance of LSU's rest of their season. Arkansas, this at home, is a reassurance game for LSU. Can they get it done the rest of the season? Like, was that just a really, really bad Mississippi State team that LSU demolished, or is LSU just now efficient on the levels that they needed to be? And I think you proved that against Arkansas. And every other SEC team will just continue to be, small reassurances. But depending on how LSU beats Arkansas, I think that'll be your biggest reassurance for the season. Trying to think if I wanted to talk about anything else. I think those were the biggest points, because there was obviously so much to gain from that LSU Mississippi State game. There was just so much more confidence. The players looked like they were, actually playing the game. Like, against Grambling, it was just very lackluster, and the players looked a little lazy. And even though they finally, got back in check and won that game, they looked a lot more efficient and ready and pumped up against Mississippi State. Like I said, LSU continues to show that they're not out of the game. I know a lot of people were losing hope, giving up on Jane Daniels, wanting Nuss Bus, and hey, Jane Daniels is back. LSU is back. I mean, I remember people saying 6-6 and 7-5 and like all that after the bad loss against Florida State, and even that after playing that game against Grambling, people were like, our defense didn't even look that great. Against the first few drives, we're gonna get demolished by every other team we play, and it just, I said, hey, I continue to say it, and I'm gonna say it through and through. If you want to go back to the older videos of me talking about it, you can't give up on this LSU team. I've been saying it. You can't give up on this LSU team. And now the people who are back on the train again. I'm excited to see what the rest of the season holds for LSU. Obviously, I think they're going to win the West. After seeing what Alabama's going through, I think they're going to win the West. And I think they have a big chance to win the SEC championship this year. We'll see what the playoffs hold for LSU, but even Florida State, man, they didn't look that great. Boston College had 18 penalties for a total of like 100 and I can't remember 160 something or 180 something yards. Boston College, and they were still almost came back in that game. What was the final score for that? I'm gonna look that up. Why is it on this? I mean, that was a close game. Boston College made so many, just penalty mistakes in 31-29. 31-29. I mean, a 3-point or 2-point game. And Boston College almost came back, and I forgot how they lost. It was a stupid reason they lost. I think some penalty or something at the end of the game, and Florida State was just able to it was an offsides or something. Florida State was just able to go back and run the clock out after that. But I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to discredit Florida State. Obviously, they're a good team, but was it that Florida State was super good and the best team in the country, or was it that LSU played so lackluster and so below average that Florida State beat us so bad? Like, it was a big environment game. It was a big game. Is Florida State that great? Because they're a good team, obviously. Jordan Travis is a very good quarterback. That D-line, O-line, very good. Veterans. Coleman's a very good receiver. But Boston College, a team that was going in that game 1-1, and you only beat them by 2 points. There's that. Texas obviously looks really good. That West Virginia game was close for, was it West Virginia they played last weekend? No, Wyoming. Sorry, Wyoming. That game was close for a while. They beat them 31-10. So, teams to watch that are very highly rated right now. Florida State, continue to watch them, monitor them. Texas, obviously. Besides that, I don't know any other team that's as good as LSU besides Florida State and Texas, or even better than LSU. Obviously, LSU can get better throughout the season. I think they will. I think they are. I think that defense needs to gain something. See, this is the thing, and I'll kind of wrap up the video after this. If LSU wins the West, wins the SEC championship, goes to the college football playoff, and say they face Texas or Florida State, I think there's so much more to improve with LSU. Like, there's so much more improvement. I hope this point makes sense. LSU still has improving to do, obviously, especially when you're talking about the defense, secondary, D-line. But once LSU gets to the point to where there's little room for improvement, I think they're the best team in college football. And say what you want to say in the comments. Obviously, I like the comments. I like arguing. Say what you want to say in the comments. But LSU has more improving to do than Florida State, than Texas, two of the biggest rated teams right now, more improving than Michigan. Those teams have little improving to do. Like, I feel like Florida State's running on 100%. Texas is running on 100%, or let's just say they're running on 90%. And they're both those teams are running on 90%. I'm gonna try to make this point as clear as possible because sometimes I can't explain things that greatly. But try to get on my wavelength here. I'd say LSU is around 60 or 70% running right now, as far as their battery, if you want to say. Texas, Florida State's around 90-95% running. You know, if LSU can get to 95-100% by the end of the season, they're going to be one of the best teams in the playoffs if they get to the playoffs. Like, if that makes sense. LSU has so much improvement to do, but once they get to that state to where, you know, there's little improvement, they're going to be insanely good, a national championship caliber team. When LSU was playing Florida State, they won the first half. There were so many times, and I hate talking about this game and I hate bringing it up, but I think it's just so important. There's so many times when LSU could have capitalized on something and been up a touchdown or two in the first half. And they were running with a low battery. But once they charge up, LSU's going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous, and I think they're going to be a team that can make it far. And I think that Mississippi State game goes to show you, hey, this team's good. And the hype they were getting, it wasn't just random hype for an SEC team. It was this team isn't running at the levels that they can be running at the beginning of the season. And once they run at those high efficiency levels, they're going to beat every team they play. And I do believe that. I do believe if Jaden Daniels stays on the track he is on, I mean, 30 for 34. If Malik Neighbors continues to be that wide receiver that Jaden Daniels needs, you know, getting open, beating man coverage, being a guy you can rely on one-on-ones when you can just throw the ball up to Neighbors and he can make those catches. If he continues to do that, if Logan Diggs and Caleb Jackson continue to be those running backs to get you those short yard plays where you need a first down or a breakout run for 30, 40 yards, if they continue to do that, be those tough runners, I think this and that defense and that secondary can break up passes and can play good coverage and stop the run. And this team, by the end of the year, is running at almost 100%. I think they're going to be unstoppable. Quote me on that. They're going to be unstoppable. So that's it for this video. Like I said, that game, even though it was 41-14, it was just such a fun game to watch. I don't remember turning it off at any point. I was just locked in. I was so proud of this team, like a lot of other people were. And I can't wait to see the rest of the season. I can't wait for this game on Saturday. We get a home game again, back in Death Valley. See what the Tigers can do. There's so many teams to watch right now. Like I said, just keep an eye on Texas and Florida State, because those are your pointers to where LSU could be towards the end of the season. The rest of the SEC, like I said, seems like it's up for grabs right now. But yeah, my Saints play tonight. I'm excited. I think Carolina's going to get blown out the water, to be honest. Bryce Young, rookie QB, he's going to have a lot of trouble with that Saints defense. So that's going to be a fun game to watch in a couple hours here. Yeah, leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you think about LSU's rest of the season. You know, was this just a game they dominated in, and you know, can it go downhill from here? Just let me know what you think. I think, like I said, this team's really good, and they have so much more potential in the future. But yeah, leave a like on this video. Consider subscribing. I love making these videos. I love continuing to get better at doing this. I remember watching the other day. I watched some old videos of mine and watched some more recent ones, and I'm like, damn, I'm getting better at this, and I love doing it. So yeah, like I said, consider subscribing. I try to make at least 2 videos a week. Video on Wednesday or Thursday before the game on Saturday, and a video either Sunday or Monday talking about the game. But yeah, I love this team. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. Like I keep on telling people, do not lose hope. This season, after that loss against Florida State, it seemed like the season was over, and now it's hit a big turnaround. Thank you for watching, and as always, go Tigers.